Hello everyone and happy STAMPtember. I'm Yana Smakula and I'm excited to bring you today's exclusive collaboration STM set with Avery Elle called Cozy Cabin. Here's a look at this STM set on the screen, and it features a beautiful cozy cabin in the woods along with several additional images to help you create a scene. You have different types of Christmas trees, you have a little deer, you have a slope, you have the smoke coming out of the chimney, you have some footprints in the snow, and of course you have a few sentiments. We have warm wishes, happy holidays, and let it snow. Perfect little STM set to create beautiful winter and Christmas cards. You can get this STM set alone or the STM set and the coordinating dies. I only have the STM set today, so I will be doing a lot of fussy cutting to create my card. Here I have my mini MISTI stamping tool, a sheet of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I am stamping some images using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I will be coloring these using Copic markers, as Copics are my go-to coloring medium lately. So I'm using Memento because this type of ink is alcohol marker friendly, and I know that this ink is not going to bleed when I will start to do my coloring. So I stamped the cabin, and I'm now stamping several of the Christmas trees. There are two types of Christmas trees in this STM set. I picked the triangular type Christmas trees because these will be easier for me to cut out for my card because, like I said, I'm not using the coordinating dies. I will be fussy cutting these images using scissors. Next, we can do some coloring. I decided to do simple, basic coloring, something that is easy to copy in case you want to replicate this card. So here I'm using my go-to greens. This is the YG67, YG17, and YG03, and I'm just doing simple coloring to color the trees green. I added the darker green at the bottom and on the right, and then faded that toward lighter green at the top. I'm also using E33 and E37 to color the trunks of my Christmas trees, or fir trees, I guess I should say, brown. Next, I'm using the same E37 to color a part of the roof. So the roof is covered by snow. We have a lot of snow sitting on the roof, and that part, I will leave that white. I will use a W1 marker to add a little bit of shading because I want to add some shading to my snow, but basically I'm using brown markers here to color the cabin. I have E37, E33, the same as I used before, and then I also have E31 to color the door. Now that little circle on the door, to me, that looked like a wreath, and I used my green markers to color that green. You can also add little dots, maybe using a Jelly Roll pen or something to mimic little ornaments on that wreath. I think that will look fantastic. I'm using the exact same colors to color the chimney on my cabin. And next, I wanted to do something different. At first I wasn't sure how I wanted to color this cabin. You know, I thought maybe I should use red or gray. But then I thought to myself, if this is a cabin in the woods, it is a wooden cabin, and I want to mimic that look of wood on the front of my cabin. So I decided to use a pencil and a T-square ruler and just draw some horizontal lines that would mimic logs that were used to build this cabin. With that done, I then used my darkest brown, this is E37, and I followed the pencil line using this marker. So I'm just going to create those logs in my cabin using my markers. They're not there, but I'm imagining that they are, and I'm just adding some texture and some detail to the front of the cabin. You can easily replicate this. Just draw some lines using a pencil. You don't need to measure anything, just eyeball and make sure the distances between the lines are somewhat slightly different. I think that will make those logs look a bit more organic. And then just use your brown markers and add shading to color the entire front of your cabin brown. Now, if you don't want to do this, you can just use, a red marker or a gray marker, any other color, because your cabin can be colored any other color you want. Next, I used R27 and YG17 to color the lights. I really love those lights. You can, of course, make them yellow. You can make them glowy, or you can make them red and green. I wanted the red and green, a more traditional color combination, so these are the colors that I used. I also used Y35 and Y08 to color the lights or the light inside the windows. I wanted the cabin to look like there's light inside, like there's somebody inside, like there are people inside, they're having a celebration, they're enjoying their time in the woods, they're having a lot of fun. So I used yellow. If you don't want to have the light in your cabin, you can just color the light inside the window dark gray. With the coloring done, I used my scissors and I cut the cabin and also the Christmas trees out. These are very easy to cut out. I cut mine right up to the stamped line, so right next to the edge. I didn't want to have any white there because I knew I will be foam mounting my images onto a colored background, and I didn't want any of the white showing. So I used my scissors and I cut these out. I then used a black marker, a black Copic marker, and I colored the edge of the paper black. I didn't show this on camera. I tried filming it, but my camera didn't focus correctly, so I had to trim that part of the footage out, but that's what I did. So with all the parts and pieces done, we can begin assembling our card. Here I have a panel. This is Sea Glass by Simon Says Stamp. It is cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And next I used my scissors and I just created a slope by freehand cutting a piece of white cardstock that is Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. There is a slope stamp in this stamp set, so you can stamp it if you want, and you can follow that stamped line. I just freehand cut it because that seemed easier for me, and that created the ground for my card. So my house, my little cabin, is going to go on top like so. Next, I wanted to create some color variation. I wanted to add some darkness to the sky because I wanted the sky to be a night sky. And here I'm using Night ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is Pawsitively saturated ink. And I'm just ink blending the top part of my panel with this beautiful dark blue ink. I'm going to fade that toward the bottom because I want the horizon line to be very light. I want the horizon line to maintain the original sea glass color, but I want the dark of the panel to be very dark, almost black, and look like a night sky. With that done, I did some stamping on the white panel. I stamped the footprints in the snow. I used VersaFine ONYX black ink for this, although you can easily use brown ink or dark gray ink for this, or maybe even light blue. I adhered my snowy slope onto my ink blended blue panel, and then I foam mounted my cabin in the center. Next, I already have my little fir trees cut out, so I'm just going to arrange them and adhere them onto my card, creating a little scene. I added foam adhesive squares from the back of those, so everything is popped up on my card because I always like to have a little bit of dimension on my projects. You can easily make a 1-layer card with this stamp set if you want, but I'm all about dimension for my cards. I also used a sentiment. There's the Happy Holidays. I stamped that using VersaFine ONYX black ink. I will say that in the end, the sentiment got somewhat lost on my card, but it's still there. You can still read it. It's just, it ended up being covered a little bit by all of the snow that I will later add onto my project. I also stamped the smoke that was coming out from the chimney. I thought about cutting that part out and foam mounting it, but later decided to stamp the smoke image directly onto my panel and just color that using a white pen. That's what I did. I didn't show that on camera, but that it is what I did, and it is how I achieved this look. I used a splatter white product from Spellbinders, and I added a ton of white snow onto my project. Lastly, I used W3 and W1 markers, and I added some shading under my trees and under the cabin, and that finished my card. I did add this onto an A2 top folding card base, and I love the way this looks. So here's a look at this card created with the Simon Says stamp and Avery Elle exclusive STAMPtember collaboration stamp set. Thanks so much for joining us today. I love you guys and happy STAMPtember.
I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.